think we can go ahead and, thank you. I think we can go ahead and get started. Let me see, we got pretty good coverage here. All right, welcome everyone. So let's see, we have our usual QA core rock status. I added a bullet at the end, which I'm wondering if we should start with. And it's just basically having to do with the coordination between releases. I guess rock and SD core are pretty clear because a release implies a new umbrella helm chart. Aether has kind of been tied to a release of rock, but I guess arguably it is, does Aether in a box / Aether on ramp work? Trying to decide whether we should start with that or end with it. Why don't we postpone it for now and get into the details first, because that might inform our discussion a little bit more. And let's start at the top. Rock status. There was just a little discussion that there are a few model changes coming from Intel, and they're backward compatible, so it still would be relative to 2.1. Is there anything else to say about that, Sean?
Yeah, I guess we never really had the debate of whether these should be kept away in some branch or whether we should be introducing these into the main line. Like, I guess.
So they're project specific.
Yeah, they are project specific. Now, they do talk about some things that kind of make sense from an Aether perspective. You know, like a link to an XApp, for instance, in a RIC and like a RIC endpoint. But they're not driven by, you know, any kind of customer need or anything like that. But there, at the same time, we do have room for things like that. I mean, we do have other things in there in the Aether model 2.1 for traffic QoS, like in Slice, that we never used either. You know, so it's not a big burden for it to take new attributes like this, and most people will ignore them anyway. So I'm okay with letting these go into the main branch, but I wanted to kind of get your ideas on it and other people here.
Yeah, I think it would be good to establish a process rather than, you know, the process being just admit everything. You know, maybe we should ask people. I mean, I think this one, just letting it go in is probably fine. It's small, but you know, maybe in the future we should ask people to come to the TST with a proposal, say, I want to add these fields, justify that the fields are somehow generalized, and if they're not general, then, you know, maybe they should be in a private branch.
I kind of second that. If there is a TST discussion point on process, this sounds like what you know, it's the sweet spot.
Yeah,
and it's kind of elevating a code review up a level, if you will. But it's kind of on the same order, except not does it satisfy an engineering itch, but is it like you were saying, general? So you guys are going to have a discussion about it. Maybe we can put that on the agenda for next week.
Yeah, I would let Sean say what he thinks. I mean, he's more familiar with the changes than I am.
Yeah. I mean, they're minor. There's like 4 new attributes, or 5, maybe 5 new attributes to do with. One is saying whether a UPF is secure or not. You know, most UPFs won't give you that status, and so it'll appear blank. That's fine. And then other ones are for controlling parameters in an XApp. That really is project specific. And so, yeah, I mean, the question I have is like, how long lived are these things going to be? We have a meeting after this with one of the developers, and that's kind of one of my questions for him that I hadn't established previously is what's the lifetime of these XApp related changes? And, you know, if they are only temporary, yeah, maybe they should be on their own branch. But what that means is that he'll have to have branches on everything. He'll have to have branches on the models repo. He'll have to have branches on the API repo, the GUI repo, you know, the umbrella chart repo, SD core repo, and it'll take a bit of coordination from him or from those developers. And like the other question there is like they're being very cautious, and we'll have to handhold them through all of those branches as well. And you know, it's not something that we have experience having branches at every level of the product. So my fear is that it would involve more work for us to support it, and for that reason, I'm thinking of letting them go through.
Yeah, and so I would agree, Sean. We don't have to have some kind of purity litmus test here. Practical considerations are perfectly valid too. So yeah, but I think it's a discussion worth having, and even if we aren't draconian about it, establishing a process where at least everyone's aware of the changes and has an opportunity to comment on it.
Yeah, this is it. And like an essential part of it here, maybe that you want to capture is the fact that they are backward compatible.
Yeah.
And you know, the other thing we can do is we can, you know, Larry, you call this sort of like an elevated code review, but we could even start with a proposal phase so that, you know, we have, as a TST, we have some idea that this is coming, and you know that we can provide guidance to someone that could facilitate their sort of changes being accepted.
Absolutely. Yep. Good point. Oh, it feels like we're growing up as a process.
Yeah.
A certain level of maturity there. All right, good. All right, anything else here? We'll pick it up again next week and walk through the details of it just as a practice round.
Mm-hmm. On other ROC updates, so we have the Jenkins is working again for us, which is really great. So thank you, Dev, for your help on those. And Jordan is working on updates to Honest Config. He's adding in some more unit testing, and he's going through the release process for the Helm charts as well. So I'm going to wait for him to go through that stage before I do a new umbrella chart for Aether.
Good, got it. All right.
That's all I had. Yeah.
Thank you. Who do we have on the line to talk to SD Core?
Yeah. Hi, this is Padri and me, Ankur. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So first, I would like to thank Dev for helping us out for Jenkins build failures, but we need more support because we see for the release we are trying to tag SD core documents, and SD core Helm charts. So they were not getting published and failing continuously. So we had to request DAF support. But
Yeah,
still, some more work is, so some more support is required, so that we have emailed DAF and he is helping us out. And other part is Jenkins is failing for SMF as well. We identified one critical bug and we tried to fix over weekend, but build is failing for that as well. And we will need your support there as well.
Yep, I'll be looking at today, and the SD core Helm charts should be fixed, tagged and branched by the end of the meeting.
Great, thank you so much.
But Def, we need to find some solution. Like it's like slowing down the progress because every time we have to drop the mail.
Understood. Basically, what we should probably do is just stick you and Ankar as admins of the repos in possession, so you have the ability to update them. That'll probably be the easiest and quickest way to get you working. Then we can figure out why things are breaking.
So,
so Def, you'll need your So Def, you'll need your support for SMF repository as well. So build is failing there as well.
SMF.
Yeah, I will probably email you.
Yeah, send me an email, be sure. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
So I'm a little confused that there's still issues on publishing the Helm chart, if I understood correctly, but there is technically a release.
So I will update you on that part. So basically, when we move from the version which we have released for SD core, it is 1.3. So those are tagged, and we are good with release for that. But we update the repository with the next version, which is open for changes. So that tagging is pending. So that is what we requested.
I got it. Okay, so 1.3 is tagged. Problems are with the next dev tag.
No,
Is that
we
right?
have completed tagging 1.3.0.
I'm sorry. Complete.
We have not completed the tagging of all the repos for 1.3.0 for SD core.
So
SD core Helm chart is pending.
So 1.3.0 is not fully tagged.
Correct.
Got it. Thanks. Does this explain the problem I was seeing? I don't know who knows about it, but I was just running Ether in a box type tests against it, and SMF, I believe it was failing. Is that related?
Yes, so not exactly related, but we identified one defect over the weekend, and that is what we were trying to fix on higher priority. But Jenkins was failing, so we couldn't upload it.
So working on a critical bug is SMF related. Jenkins was not helping.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, got it.
So one thing, right, to keep everyone on the same page, right? So the testing is not done as such, right? So this is developer qualified builds. Even the 1.2 was on the same way because we don't have any CI running, right? So I want to set the expectation, right? So our team has internally done all the testing with all the generic scenario, whatever we do, right? But last time we had delayed the October release, which like 1.2 for a long time, waiting for QA2 setup to come up. And eventually we decided that we can't hold on to these releases for long, right? So since as of today as well, since we don't have setup up and running, it's like the SD core engineers, they have run through the various testing scenarios, and they have qualified that it's like the release is like whatever was expected is working, right? So it's not like we are not running all those automated test cases. Yeah.
Good. All right. That'll feed into the discussion at the bottom. Thank you for that clarification. Now I get it.
And the Helm chart changes and document changes are failing every time we raise pull request. No matter what is that, is it tagging related changes or just document update or just Helm chart version upgrade? So all the CI requests are failing, and they fail with some reason which is not known to me as such, at least. But sometimes it's like push related jobs are failing, which is like just generating the new tar file for the Helm chart and pushing it on the charts repository, right? That also fails.
Okay, so we are, all right, thank you. This is, well, I think that maybe we leave it at that and go on to the QA and try to close the loop on where we are and what needs to be done. Is there anything else on the SD core to get on the record here, or shall we move on to QA?
Nope.
One more thing. So we have Techinar planned on 31st of May.
I'm sorry, you have what?
Techinar, the
the Techinar
presentation of release. Yeah.
When is that scheduled?
31st of May.
All right, so we still have a little time. Okay, good. I think it's fair to not go out of our way to publicize this just yet until the Techinar. Okay, QA. I'll just, whoever's going to run with it here, just start working through the list and we'll see where it takes us.
So I'll take this up, this Kunal. So starting with the last TST action items that we had. So we did run a few tests again using GNB SIM against our against latest Aether in a box. So we have used almost all the profiles, and we have checked. We got a successful run using GNB SIM. So we do see we have taken some logs around it, and we have taken network captures as well.
So you said pretty much all the profiles. How many profiles?
There are 7 profiles, like registration, deregistration.
So if just to help everyone that knows Aether in a box understand, when you just run the out of the box Aether in a box make 5G test, how many profiles are you running there? Just one?
Yeah, by default, PDU session establishment is the one there which is enabled. So we, we create a different config and pass that config in the GNB SIM script, and using that we are running a different test from there.
All right. So I just want to make sure I've recorded this correctly. Aether in a box runs one profile by default. You have enabled 6 others. So you are much more thoroughly running the
Yes.
latest against a broader set of tests.
Right.
All right, great. Andy, you mentioned a suite of tests, and maybe this we take offline, but can you connect that to what we're hearing here in terms of different profiles? Is that something you've done?
So what I mentioned, I think, is that based on my recollection of the previous ONF QA processes for Aether, there was a repository called Aether System Tests, which had a bunch of robot tests in it. And I think what I mentioned is long in the past, I had looked at this repository and gotten these tests to run against Aether in a box. Now, I don't think that the tests in there, like I think these Aether system tests are basically the ones that are run from a lot of the CI jobs that that we've been discussing in previous meetings and trying to figure out, you know, how to revive. But I don't think that that's maybe directly related to the profiles, the 5G profiles that are being discussed right now, sort of orthogonal.
Okay, it's orthogonal, but
so Larry, I can help you. If this is part of GNodeB SIM development, and these profiles were given to make sure that developer can test all the floats. And to keep things simple, we have enabled only one profile in the default Helm chart override values.
Got it. Thank you.
That,
so in
that
terms
when
of
you run make,
go ahead.
Yeah. So that way, when somebody runs make 5G test, it just attaches 5 users, I guess, and then it sends the few packets per user. And if everything goes well, at the end, it says that result pass or test is passed. Right. So, yeah, but developer can go ahead and update the override values to enable the other profiles. So each profile is nothing but some specific call flow in 3GPP call flow.
Good, thank you. What I want to get to is a combination of all of the above. So with Aether in a box, and I would then say that it would equally work with Aether on-ramp. You run multiple GNodeB SIM profiles, and you run whatever Aether system tests are meaningful as a test of latest. And that's, you know, run regularly as the umbrella charts for ROC and SD core change. Yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to get to. So there was once upon a time a repo called Aether System Tests that you could go to and say, okay, here's the set of tests, and we need to reproduce that, recover it. I'm not sure of the right mechanism here.
Yeah. So Larry, we have, the task that we were working on earlier was related to inventorizing
exactly
the existing. Yeah. So there, Aether system test was a part of it, and we have, find out the coverage of Aether system test. So majorly, Aether system test consists of API tests, GUI tests, and SD core tests, which are run through NG40.
All right. So I think this is the takeaway here is let's set NG40 aside for the moment. Can we run the API tests? And maybe this doesn't make any sense, I don't know, but can we run the API tests with GNB SIM as the workload driver, or is that just a ton of work to do?
I think that is doable. We have already ran API test against Aether on ramp, and we have also created a job for the same in our local Jenkins. So, and I think that one of the API test job is also there on organizations Jenkins. So I think that is also running as a part of nightly, and we do see some of the results there as well.
So maybe I misunderstood. I thought when the API tests would tweak, poke the API in some way, but then you had to validate that the right action had taken place, and you did that with the simulator. But is that not?
Right.
That is the case?
Right now we are not, validating it with simulator. So the integration is not there. We need to find out how much, we can integrate them. So
So that's the question. And I mean, I know the NG40 is, I want to treat it as orthogonal for now. But I don't want to get anything stuck behind NG40. I would like to get the most comprehensive set of tests against the simulator that we know works, and the open source one. So I know there's a spreadsheet with the inventory. Is there a repo somewhere that one can go to and say, okay, I see them now. Those are the 6 tests that run. Is there such a thing?
sorry, I didn't get.
Where do I go look to find the set of tests that get run nightly?
I have a view set up in Jenkins to do baseline tests that have run successfully in like the last 7 months. But there is no single spot to say here are all the builds that we are running regularly, like once a week at least.
So you do have a Jenkins, what's the right word, dashboard?
Yeah, there's a dashboard that I call baseline, but it's a private one. I'm just kind of walking through things, trying to make it run. I can make it public, but it's pretty much every build that has run successfully at least once since November.
That would be great to see. Thanks.
Okay, I'll make it public. Look for baseline. Give me a minute, but go on.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. Yeah, but that's actually exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
I had that. I could go track down everything else.
It's incredibly annoying, but tell you what it is. Between failures and disabled and everything else, it's got work to do.
I maybe didn't quite understand it. If I were to look at that dashboard, would I see mostly failures?
You would see about 35 to 40% failures, about 20% disabled, and about 40% that generally succeed or succeeded last time they ran.
Good. I mean, what I want to do is use that as a starting point to hone in on, throw these overboard. These are the ones we're focused on. Let's do our best to make them.
Yep. That's the goal of this. Yeah. That's the goal of that view. So
Perfect.
That's the purpose. Just expect a lot of noise.
Okay, SD core release under the QA bullets. Let's continue on.
Yeah. So we had a discussion. I mean, we got some details from Ajay regarding SD core release. So we have release notes, and we have created a document which we are going to refer for the testing. It is going to be a kind of manual for us, so that we will refer it, and we will have all the test cases and everything there. So we have gone through the release notes, and we are we have what we have understood, we have documented here. So we'll be adding test cases here, and it is going to be a live document for a few days. Everything, we are going to update test cases. We are going to add whatever we understand from different features. So, and what all Jenkins job would be created for testing this release. So we'll add them in the Jenkins job section here.
Okay, so this is your master document of everything that's going on, which you've shared
Yes.
before. But this is specifically talking about core release testing. How does this?
Yeah, this is for SD core release test, and I mean, similarly, we can follow and create for other releases as well.
Okay, thanks. I need to look at that, but it is linked in the notes here, so
Yeah.
everyone can take a look.
Yeah. So yeah, TST can review and provide us comments on that.
So is it just identification of test, or you're planning to like automate it, or like?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that is in the plan. We are going to. I mean, we have planned to automate it, but I mean, we'll find out the efforts and the scope of it.
So is it like now going forward, all the test cases will be developed around GNodeB SIEM, or we are still relying on the NG40? So
for
there
now,
are definitely, yeah.
Yeah, we are planning GNB SIM for now, because I mean, once we get a clarity on NG40, and we can run the existing tests as well, or we can modify them for the latest releases.
And there is one more tool, right? UE Ransom, which is very much widely used for the 5G testing, right? So, and in fact, we have tried it ourselves, because community, many members were asking about how to configure UE Ransom to make it work with the SD core. Right? So that tool also gives a lot of flexibility. So
what tool is that?
The UE Ransom.
Oh yeah.
UE Ransom, yeah, that's a widely used tool, and that's also open source, right? So I'm not sure about the licensing, but yeah, it's something, if we are just going to use it, should be okay.
So I can't say his name off the top of my head, but there is a student in who has set that up as a fork of Aether on-ramp. So if we needed to borrow from that, that would be to learn from it. Is that what you're using, AJ?
We had used it once to create some documentation, and SD Core or AetherDoc has that one of the page how to use UE Ransom as well. So I think we should not just plan everything just around GNodeB SIEM, because eventually we will hit the issue where we might say that GNodeB SIEM requires extra support, right? So there's other tools which are widely used, right? We should explore those as well.
Yeah. So that's, I think, an important comment. So it's UE.
Yeah, I just dropped it in the chat. Yeah, UE Ransom. UE Ransom. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Especially the NG40 was used for performance tests and all, and GNodeB SIEM cannot be used for performance test, right? So UE Ransom will have those options. Yeah, you get the done interface where we can generate traffic. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, we will look into it.
So like I said, if you can't find it, let me know. And I think I've got links to it somewhere, but they have integrated with Aether in a box. So
sure.
Okay, let's.
Yeah, so I have a few queries regarding SD Core release testing. So do we have any document where we have at least unit test cases, or maybe is there a way we can find out where what all test cases are already tested, kind of thing?
Yeah, I can get that, but it's not documented. I can ask somebody to send that, but it's mostly around the profiles and maybe some of the test cases around restarting the network functions, since we were dealing with the multiple network functions. So some of the test cases were about making some call and then restarting network functions and then sending subsequent messages and make sure that the UE states are still there available, right? And network function can fetch the states from database and then work. So those kind of test cases we do have. Mostly, apart from the profile, it's going to be mostly around the restarting the network functions, the AMF and SMF and UPF. Yeah.
Sure, that would be really helpful if we can get that.
Okay.
Okay, let's continue on through the bullets.
Sure. So, Preetham, would you like to take this up?
Yeah, thanks, Kunal. Yeah, so as Kunal mentioned, it's already mentioned that we were able to run API tests against Ether on RAM, and we prepared the local Jenkins job for the same. Also, for a new rock release, so we, as per the PR mentioned here from San, we burn one image, and with that image, we replace that image in Ether 2.1. But we face this ONUS config pod crash issue. So that's what we are not able to complete the test case.
Sorry, was there a question for me there, or what's the blocking item?
Yeah, when we burn the 2.1.35, the PR what you release, using that we burn one image, and that image we use on Ether 2.1. But when we use that image, we observe the pod crash issue.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the, because of that,
The reason,
go ahead. Yeah.
The reason why is that ONUS config with those changes needs an updated version of Atomics, and that's what I'm going to bring together in 2.1.36.
Okay.
Right. So you're waiting on the full package here, not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Larry, I would like to add one thing in Ether QF Pune status. In the last TST, we discussed about 3-node cluster, and we have understanding on how Kajit's deployment is and how they are using 3-node cluster. So I think Preetham has shared one doc, and he'll be. He's driving. Yeah, he's driving this thing, so he has a few questions.
Well, I looked at the document. I didn't understand what it was largely empty. It had a picture of it had a diagram, so it wasn't clear to me what the next step is maybe let me call it the blocker. What is it that needs to happen?
Yeah, actually, yeah, Kunal, please.
Yeah. So right now, all the 3 nodes are, for them, they are like worker node, and all are master node. So whenever there is a, there are different algorithms that they are using, and if a kind of performance is required, then the pods move to the other node. So such kind of cases they are covering. So right now all the 3 nodes are master node and worker nodes 2.
How can they all three be master nodes and be one cluster?
So Larry, just a backup as a so when one of the master fails, some other master should take up. So it's just active and standby.
Yes.
And we keep it 3 just to make sure that there's a if there's any consensus algorithm, so there's a new master is selected properly. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, are we talking about nodes in a Kubernetes cluster, or are we talking about containers in a pod?
The nodes in. So no, I didn't get it. Not containers. This is just at the Kubernetes level, right?
Okay, at the Kubernetes level.
Yes. Yes.
You now have a 3-node Kubernetes cluster. Is that a correct statement?
Yes. 3 nodes are in Kubernetes cluster. Correct.
And this is a crude characterization of Kubernetes, but my understanding is that one of those nodes is the control node, or the hot node, or the active node, or the master node. Is that, and the other 2 are responding to it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just missing.
I think these might be
is
3
here.
worker nodes. Would I be right in saying there are 3 worker nodes, and that the API server will be on a separate master node?
That's well, 3 nodes. I would say there's the API server is on 1 node, and there are 2 additional worker nodes.
Okay, that's the question we're asking. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, actually, as per Kajit, they've prepared like that only. I mean, all 3 nodes, they means as a master, and all 3 nodes as a worker. So they can balance in between.
Well, so what's confusing to me is there's got to be a single point of control for the cluster as a whole. I mean, I don't understand having multiple. I don't understand having an API server on each node as a sort of the default operation.
So only one of the API server is going to be active, Larry.
Right. So one of them's
API
active.
server on the master node. Yeah.
So at that point, let me just say, add the word active here.
So when somebody says that all 3 nodes are also worker node, that means the real workload can be scheduled on even on the master node, which is not actually suggestible approach from Kubernetes, but there are still deployments, right? There's a flexibility if the
yeah. All right. So at this point, we very, in the very indirect way, concluded it sounds like we have a 3-node Kubernetes cluster.
I would prefer like having a clean 1 single master node and 2 worker node as a framework for the community, which can be shown. Looks like this current 3 ways seems to be a lot more like optimized, but it may not. It creates some confusion.
Yeah.
I know we're in Atomics, for instance, and it was the same with Honest Classic, as you probably know, that they recommended having 3 worker nodes where you're trying to deal with the raft algorithm, and there's all that, elections and all those kind of things. So, I mean, I think what we're saying here is there's 3 machines, and one of those machines, all 3 of those machines have worker nodes, and then one of the machines has an API server node on it as well. Would that be a fair way of characterizing it?
Well, is this summary correct? Is this what we're saying?
Yeah, and it need not be just API server. There could be other Kubernetes components as well. API servers.
Yeah. Thanks.
So whatever takes for that cluster to continue function, right? All those components will be there on all.
Well,
the
let
three
me
nodes,
just call it the, I don't know if this is technically what Kubernetes calls it, but it's the controller.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if we call that as a single bucket too. Yeah.
All right. So we've got 3 workers, one of them, and all of them are capably in the controller. One of them is the currently active controller. Let me just say active. I forgot the active here. All right. So, like I said, we have now concluded that we have a 3-node Kubernetes cluster that is reasonably configured. So what's the question? What's next?
Right. So this configuration is all, the one that is used by Kajit. Should we follow the same or?
It's the question. Yes,
yes.
Yeah. That seems perfectly reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Then, yeah, we will follow the same and we'll create a cluster for this.
So the nuance to this is, and we have a fork in the road here, but I would suggest we find a way to bring this cluster up in the framework of Aether in a box or Aether on-ramp. I'm happy to work with you on on-ramp to make it happen. There's a make recipe for bringing up a single node cluster. I would like to see that augmented to bring up this 3-node cluster, because Aether on-ramp / Aether in a box is our default generic platform, as opposed to yet another set of machinery to bring it up.
And how do you do the UPF here? Like it's capable of running on all 3 nodes?
No, we're not yet deploying. That's step 2. You're right. We need to get to that. But step 1 is bringing up this cluster, even if all of the work. I mean, we can leave it to Kubernetes as to where stuff gets located and not optimize that step yet. So we're still at the infrastructure level.
So Larry, I wanted to understand the bigger picture. Are we giving some recipe to community that this is how they can bring up this is what inventory if they have 3 nodes or 3 servers or 3 VMs, this is the steps to follow to bring up the 3-node cluster, and then provide them further steps that how they can install SD core or the whole Aether on that cluster, right? We want that seems to be the end result, right?
Yes.
The community should be able to
bring up the infrastructure,
replicate the setup.
Yes, but we don't. I want to make sure we get. I don't want to confuse these 2 levels because it's
sure. Yeah.
Step 2.
But at the same time, I wanted to know, like, end result is like we all agree on the end result. Yeah.
And I'm just saying this is the current focus. And then, so we've established the target infrastructure to bring up. That's step 0. Step 1 is bring up that infrastructure, and then step 2 is to find the right recipe for bringing up ROC, monitoring, SD core, and so on that infrastructure.
Perfect. Yeah.
This, I mean, if you can come back next week and say you've got step 1, that would be fantastic.
Sure, we'll do that.
Yeah. Yes, Larry.
All right, so this is the target design. And it basically mimics G. All right, we're close to the top of the hour. I want to spend just a couple of minutes on the last topic, which is coordinating releases here. personally, when I say Ether 2.1.36, I'm also saying Rock Umbrella 2.1.36 because I'm equating the two. But they're not, that's obviously not exactly the same. It's really Ether in a box, which has no version number, or Ether on-ramp, which has no version number, but it does have a set of umbrella chart specs. Is that a reasonable, and I don't know that we want to, I'm not yet ready to get into the business of tagging releases of Ether in a box or Ether on-ramp, but we do have the Rock as kind of the master umbrella in some sense. Is that a fair way to think about an Ether release?
Maybe
Or how do we
can
think
you
about an Ether release? Are there any? It's really a set of umbrella charts.
True, that's what we have done till date, yeah.
Actually, it's a set of arguably 3 umbrella charts. It's the Rock chart, the SD core chart, and maybe a monitoring chart, if you wanted to be inclusive. So it's a set of charts, and having passed tests, arguably in some combination of Ether in a box and Ether on ramp. So I'm making a mountain out of a molehill here. It's a fairly straightforward definition. Am I missing anything?
No, I think this is perfectly fine, yeah.
All right, so this is, let me steal the word umbrella. This is the umbrella goal, that we can qualify Ether releases by passing a set of tests on a set of umbrella charts. And we that's kind of what we were working on back here. Where was it? We were talking about this set of tests that we're going to do. And they run against Ether in a box here. I'm just going to cut this and move it up. They run here. It sounds like the same set of tests, right? What is it? What's going on? Is anyone there?
Yeah.
We're here.
I can't understand what just happened to I thought I had frozen.
You got Google.
Yeah, Google froze. Okay, everything follows from this highlighted thing. That's the set of tests which get run against a combination of the Rock umbrella and the SD core umbrella. And where we are today is we are testing Rock and core independently, which is a step in the process. On the way to certifying the next quote unquote release of Ether. Okay. That was probably, I'm not sure all that helpful, but it helped me. Anything else?
I was just going to say, yeah, I think what you were saying is right, that in the past when we've done Ether releases, it's, specific versions of these specific charts. That was the release, plus some documentation that we've produced about maybe new features or, changelog kind of thing. And in this case, I think also from what we've been talking about, part of the release is also the tests in some form, the tests that have been run on the release. And so, you know, people have some assurance that, you know, certain things have been tested and are working. I don't know if we can actually, like, you know, we've talked in the past of somehow balling up all of the tests that have run and including that as something that people could then easily reproduce. I don't know that we're quite at that point yet, but at very least, maybe, you know, some kind of documentation about these are the tests that have been run to qualify it.
Yeah, it's a reproducible inventory of tests that were passed. I think it's, I mean, in some ways it's obvious, but it's in another way, it's always good to remind ourselves of what we're shooting for. And we're not here yet, but I think we've made significant progress towards this. So good, thank you. All right, so I am potentially out next week. I'm not sure that necessarily means the meeting doesn't happen. It certainly probably should, and I might be able to make it, but I'll be traveling. But watch the TST channel on Slack for any news about how that'll work. All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.